right in the middle of your time there was the PowerPC to x86 switchover. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that happened like right as I was joining full time, like my
Mm.
last internship to full time. I joined full time in 2005, and yeah, we had development units that were hidden inside G5 cases and all sorts of things. It was kind of a big deal. Very big change for our team, certainly. Like you can imagine that when you're doing the performance work at that level,
Right.
digging into the chip details, going from PowerPC to any other architecture is a massive change in the tooling to understand. The conceptual model of how the processor works probably isn't that huge of a change, but the exact details of how you control performance counters, how you actually know the the subtle details of what's happening through execution units, etc. And took a lot of time to build up that knowledge again for the new platform.
Absolutely. Did y'all have kind of an abstraction layer over the PowerPC that allowed you to kind of like write a new backend, if you will, for it, or was it mostly? It
Oh no,
was,
not at all. It was entirely written to support PowerPC and nothing else. So I mean, and keep in mind that with Motorola slash Freescale and IBM, we had a very close relationship to the extent that if you install the CHUD tools, it actually ships full cycle accurate simulators for G4 and G5.
oh wow.
It's for running execution trace or like instruction traces of small snippets, not like booting a whole system. But we
Right.
had that level of relationship with them where that was just there. We shipped the entire assembler reference. So when you were looking at an instruction, you could just click show me the instruction and it would pull up the PDF to that exact page kind of thing. And working with Intel, it took a while to build up all of that because we had just never assumed that we would change to a different architecture. That's kind of the classical problem with changing architectures is like you just build up all these subtle assumptions about how the system would work. And a lot of folks are more familiar with the like, oh, you're running on big endian and you're switching to little endian, you're going to have a lot of pain.
Right.
There's also just a lot of pain for. I wrote my entire stack assuming that all my instructions were 32 bits.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. And then we turned around and did it again as the iPhone started development, where now I had to do ARM. I ended up writing an ARM disassembler over a weekend to support the iPhone program, right? Like, we were trying to make that happen as fast as possible and shoehorned it in. At least we had done it once with x86 at that point. But yeah, going to 3 different architectures that we supported was the code base started to get quite ugly at that point.
Right. Right. Did y'all have more or less heads up with the iPhone in terms of the transition coming? Because it sounds like y'all might have not had a ton of heads up on the PowerPC to x86 transition.
Apple is well known, very tight-lipped,
Right.
both externally and internally, and very siloed. And so the x86 development started as a small team somewhere else, not in the hardware group, kind of doing their exploratory work. And then eventually the hardware project started, and then eventually the performance team came in. And the iPhone kind of happened the same way. It started with some folks from iPod kind of specking out what the system would look like, etc. And by the time we got pulled in, they already had engineering units, not form factor, but like prototype board units. They had a software stack that was booting. They had been doing a huge amount of work without us. And so we got brought in late where it was actually, we're seeing problems that we need your tools to understand what's going wrong. And we said, well, now we have to go actually figure out how to pull out performance information out of the system that you're running on.
Right.
So give us a couple months. You don't have a
Right.
couple months, iPhone was specifically like to the extent where I had to sign a separate NDA just for iPhone. And I actually had 2 office locations because I had one in Building 5, which is where the Mac hardware group was, which is my normal office. But then Building 2 was where they were actually doing all of the iPhone development. And so I had to go up there to a different desk for any time I was working on iPhone related stuff.